As a Madridista, I can say this team in 2010 was maybe like the best team I ever seen.
To dominate world football and having a lot of players coming from the academy, not a lot of clubs can say that.
Xavi, Messi, Iniesta, products of Barcelona's youth camp, La Masia, stand atop of the world, marking the beginning of the greatest team to ever grace the football pitch. But at the same time, something was festering under the surface that would strike the club down in the peak of its powers, seeming to forever shackle the club to disappointment after disappointment. That is, until this man showed up. But before we learn about him, we have to go back to the curse's beginning. La Masia is the foundation of what makes Barcelona everything that it is today. Established on a proposal from Johan Cruyff, based on his experience in the Ajax youth system, La Masia would become one of the greatest little farmhouses for footballing talent across the world. Players would come from all over to grow under specific ideals that would create the most technically adept players to ever step on a football pitch. And for the vast majority of Barcelona history, their most impactful players have come from La Masia. Guardiola, Xavi, Iniesta, Valdez, Messi, the list goes on. But out of all of the players that they fostered, for the most part, the ones that became the most world-renowned were their midfielders. However, this outpouring of incredible La Masia midfielders would cease, as if cursed, at the point where La Masia midfielders were at the peak of their excitement, of their powers. 2010, Messi, Iniesta, and Xavi placed first, second, and third, respectively, in the Ballon d'Or rankings. A Spain World Cup victory and a La Liga win for Barcelona saw these three La Masia men rise to the top of footballing all over the world. However, it would also mark the outbreak of the curse of the La Masia attacking midfielder. Andres Iniesta, one of the most incredibly gifted midfielders of any generation ever. Barcelona was honored to have him on the pitch for over a decade, sparking up the field whenever they needed to, being an incredible attacking midfield threat. However, he would be the last La Masia player to survive this curse, because until 2023, Iniesta was the last attacking midfielder to go straight from La Masia into the first team and make a very significant impact on the squad. However, there are two examples of players that, in another world, could have slotted themselves into the first team with Barcelona after their time in the academy. The first being Cesc Fabregas. Only a few years younger than Iniesta, and coming up with Messi and La Masia, Fabregas' name was always held in very high esteem at the club. He was always club captain in the academy, and he was very well slotted to be successful at the top level with Barcelona. However, at 15 years old, Cesc Fabregas realized that he needed to make a change, because there was one of the most generational talents in footballing history in Iniesta directly in front of him in the pecking order. And so he left Barcelona. Just as he hoped, this move may have saved his career, because instead of rotting on the bench behind Iniesta in Iniesta's prime years, he went to Arsenal, where he could thrive under Arsene Wenger. He would go on to play 303 matches for the Gunners, scoring 57 goals, assisting 95 more, and achieving precisely what he wanted to when he left Barcelona. However, Cesc eventually went back to Barcelona, and at the beginning, everything seemed very exciting. Cesc helped take the creative load from the midfield off of Iniesta's shoulders, and together, alongside Iniesta and Xavi, the midfield thrived. However, it was a short-lived reunion, because after only a few years at the club, once Pep Guardiola left, there was no spot for Cesc Fabregas in that team anymore. But the next player coming through the farm was Thiago Alcantara. At 19 years old, Thiago quickly became a mainstay in the Barcelona first team after a few years of bouncing between them and Barcelona B. And for a good amount of time, he would make a decent impact in the squad. He was always technically gifted and highly touted. However, he, unlike Cesc Fabregas, just did not have an eye for goal. Barcelona needed a player in their midfield that was incredibly adept at scoring and that could take burden off of the forwards. Thiago was just never that guy. Just look at Real Madrid's midfield today. Every single one of their midfielders is incredibly dangerous from 30 yards out, and that creates a new element to the attacking force of the squad and takes some burden off of the forwards. You cannot say the same about Barcelona. But so, Thiago just could not find his place in the squad. However, there is one player that was more similar to Fermín López than any player in recent Barcelona history. Thiago's younger brother, Rafinha. Unlike Thiago, the younger Alcantara brother had a much better sense for goal. Just in 2.5 years at La Masia, he was able to score 20 goals. And from that point on, he was promoted to the first team. But when he got there, it was very, very exciting. He contributed a lot. He brought that energy that the team needed and that I've been asking for and the team had been cursed for so long. However, it did not last. Not only was he streaky, but Rafinha was incredibly injury prone, constantly getting knocked down and taken out of matches. So he was just never able to rise to the level that Barcelona needed him to. They needed someone with the La Masia technical intelligence to play like a Barcelona player, yet also the ability to break through and once in a while be reckless, take a shot on goal. As Iniesta aged, his contributions to the team waned and the squad slowly became more boring and stale as the years went by. The La Masia teachings of obsessive ball possession and rotation were no longer the braces helping to carry the club to titles, but were now the crutches keeping the club from running with the big boys. By the way, only 3% of you are subscribed, so subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss my next video. La Masia fosters the most incredibly talented and technically gifted players in the world. However, if I've learned anything from football, it's that being reckless and having energy and playing with energy once in a while can help you win in the most difficult of circumstances. You can see that with Man City's Champions League win in 2023. Rodri is probably one of the most intelligent and technically skilled midfielders in the world. Plus, he was playing under one of the most regimented and organized coaches in the world. There is zero chance that that play at the end of that game for him to score that goal is where he was supposed to be. They didn't plan it out that way so that he would score that goal on a rebound. But Rodri has shown over and over again, no matter where he has been at through his career, that he can take a rip from the top of the box anytime he wants. And so he was ready for that in that situation. If he had been brought up in La Masia and stayed with Barcelona for an extended period of time, I don't know if he would have taken that shot. Put Sergio Busquets in that situation, and I don't think he's shooting. However, that's just a guess. Anything can happen. You might disagree with me, and that's fine. But that is the difference between what Barcelona needed and what they had. It's one of the major factors that's been holding Barcelona back from competing on the biggest stages in the world. And one of the reasons that they haven't made it past the round of 16 in the Champions League in the past 3 years, and even made it out of the group stage in the past 2 years. However, there have been several La Masia players that Barcelona fans had expected to fill that attacking midfielder, that goal-scoring midfield position for so long. Carlos Alenya, Xavi Simons, Nico Gonzalez, Elias Moriba. For one reason or another, they just didn't pan out. They didn't become that midfielder that Barcelona needed so badly. And whether it was because they didn't perform well when the time they did have, or they left the club too early, they did not become that attacking midfielder. However, there was one player who stood out among all of the rest that Barcelona fans wanted to succeed more than anyone else. Riqui Puig. For a year or two, it seemed like he was the most loved La Masia player in the entire squad. And a lot of people, myself included, blindly rooted for him even though his performances were always a bit lackluster. He brought the energy the team needed going forward, but that final product that the team so desperately needed when Koeman brought him in was just not materializing. On top of that, he contributed pretty poorly to the way that the squad was being set up, leaving gaps on defense and failing to fill the correct position on the team's press. He was just always missing something. And it was that something that Xavi tried to teach and instill in Pedri in the 22-23 season. All of the expected attacking midfielders from La Masia had gone, so Xavi looked at his next best option, and that was teaching Pedri how to do it all. Being more aggressive and ambitious in that final third, to not just create chances for his team, but also create chances for himself when all the hope was lost. And Pedri did decently, scoring more goals last season. However, he's always hurt, so he couldn't fill that position of a midfielder that they could rely on for goals. And as the start of the 23-24 season approached, that curse of the La Masia attacking midfielder didn't seem to cease and still existed. There was not that attacking midfielder in the squad. They needed a player like a Lo Celso, a Gabri Veiga, that would bring that cutting edge, that blast from the midfield pass that the team so desperately needed, but no one came, and the season was set to start with the same problem that they had experienced for years. That was until the El Clasico over the summer in America. Fermín López was born in Andalusia and played for several different academy teams growing up, including Betis, where in 2014 he would actually meet Gavi, though the players didn't play in the same age group, as Fermín was actually older, but he eventually found his way to Barcelona in 2016. However, it was precisely this difference that forced Fermín to learn how to play football a little bit differently than everyone else. He needed to have a certain fight or ferociousness that bigger players just did not need to have, something we see a lot in Gavi today. His struggles made him stronger, and that's very important to him because he continued to struggle as he got older. He had so little talk about him, in fact, that there was another third division team that Barça Athletic decided to send him to because he just was not going to get minutes at Barça Athletic. That year, away from the new camp, away from La Masia, he was able to become a different player than he might have become at Barça Athletic. There, he learned how to play fighting football, not in the Barcelona way, but in the way of any team that is fighting relegation and promotion and needs special midfielders to step up to make important tackles and also to bring a bit of brilliance in front of goal. And Fermín López was there to step up for them. And even though it was the third division, Fermín would play in 37 matches that season and score 12 goals for them in the league, which is, even in that division, pretty impressive for a midfielder. However, since it was a third division team that he played for, there was basically no excitement around his name. He went back to Barça and there was really no change. People didn't have that high expectations for him. Nobody was talking about him on Twitter, and hell, I didn't even know his name. But the training staff gave him 1 week in training to see if he could prove himself and make that summer squad, or if he would be sent back to Barça Athletic for the entire summer. And I'm not sure entirely what happened, but in that week, Xavi saw that that fight was in him. And not only did he earn a place in the squad for the summer, but he also earned himself minutes in El Clásico, where in his first 20 minutes on the pitch as a Barcelona player, he scored a screamer from outside the box to secure victory and put his name on the score sheet for Barcelona for the very first time. However, all of that magic seemed to be very little use, as going into the season, it didn't seem like there was going to be much of a spot for Fermín López. With a midfield full of Gavi, Pedri, Frankie, and Gundogan on top of Oriol Romeu, where is some 21-year-old kid that hasn't proven himself going to fit in? But it didn't take long for Barcelona players to do what Barcelona players do, and all of them seemed to get injured. And as upsetting and concerning to every culé in the world, that happens to open up a spot for none other than Fermín López. And now my boy had time to shine. So far in 9 matches, 4 of which are starts, he has 3 goal contributions and honestly could have several more if he were just slightly more lucky, because he is constantly getting himself into very dangerous positions, as well as contributing very importantly on the defensive side of the ball. He makes decisions to take a shot at goal in situations where other Barcelona players would absolutely choose to pass it back and maintain possession. If Fermín López can stay healthy, I think he has a great place to be that 4th midfielder, that 5th midfielder, that guy right on the edge, to come in games where you need a spark and to slot into the team when inevitably players get injured. Fermín López is absolutely that guy to end the curse of the La Masia attacking midfielder. But now, jump over to this video about my other favorite La Masia midfielder, Gavi. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.